Micah Pilkey Utah is a real estate developer whose work centers on community revitalization and affordable housing solutions. While his early career included time in Utah, his current focus is on scalable development projects in Texas that transform underused properties into stable housing communities. His background in land development and investment strategy reflects a long-term view of value creation rooted in practicality and disciplined growth. Pilkey's work is shaped by experience, education, and a measured leadership philosophy. He holds a bachelor's degree in aviation management and has pursued graduate-level education in real estate development. His career has evolved toward addressing gaps in the housing market through redevelopment strategies that align financial sustainability with community needs. Micah Pilkey Utah built his foundation in land acquisition and redevelopment. Early projects emphasized identifying overlooked properties and repositioning them to serve growing markets. Over time, his focus narrowed to housing accessibility, particularly in regions experiencing population growth and rising housing costs. Rather than pursuing conventional large-scale subdivisions, Pilkey turned attention toward smaller footprint communities. His strategy involves acquiring mobile home and RV parks and repositioning them as organized tiny home communities. The approach responds to affordability concerns while maintaining investor viability. According to his professional background, his mission centers on creating sustainable housing options that address practical market realities. The model reduces development costs by leveraging existing infrastructure while upgrading utilities, layout, and long-term site planning. Industry data supports the relevance of such strategies. The National Low-Income Housing Coalition reports persistent shortages in affordable rental housing across multiple states, particularly in fast-growing regions. By focusing on adaptable land assets, developers can meet demand without the cost structure of traditional housing builds. Pilkey's projects aim to balance operational feasibility with long-term community stability. Infrastructure upgrades, utility planning, and standardized unit placement form the backbone of each redevelopment phase. Micah Pilkey Utah began his career in Utah, where early development efforts provided experience in navigating zoning requirements, land valuation, and investor relations. However, market conditions in Texas presented broader opportunities for scale. Texas offered larger tracts of land, favorable population growth trends, and municipalities seeking cost-effective housing solutions. While his early career included time in Utah, Pilkey's focus today is on scalable development projects in Texas that allow replication of the tiny home model across multiple communities. The geographic shift reflects market analysis rather than departure from principle. Texas metropolitan areas such as Dallas-Fort Worth and Houston continue to see rapid growth, which increases pressure on housing supply. Developers who can reposition existing assets at lower capital intensity gain competitive advantage. Pilkey applies lessons learned from earlier projects while adapting to local regulations and infrastructure standards. Site evaluation in Texas emphasizes utility capacity, road access, drainage planning, and long-term asset management. The redevelopment of RV parks into structured tiny home communities represents a core element of his strategy. The model reduces entitlement risk because many properties are already zoned for residential or mixed-use occupancy. Instead of starting from raw land, Pilkey improves layout, upgrades utilities, and introduces standardized housing units. Micah Pilkey Utah has described the pivot as a response to structural housing shortages rather than a short-term trend. His team evaluates properties through phased rollouts that measure feasibility, return on investment, and operational scalability. The tiny home approach creates smaller living footprints while preserving privacy and independence for residents. In many cases, units are installed with attention to durability and efficiency. Infrastructure planning focuses on water access, waste management, and reliable electrical systems. Industry observers note that modular and small-format housing has expanded in recent years as municipalities explore alternative housing solutions. According to research published by Freddie Mac, the United States faces millions of units in housing supply deficit. Redevelopment strategies that use existing land footprints can help address that gap. Pilkey's projects integrate investment structure alongside physical redevelopment. He has explored tax strategies that allow accelerated depreciation on certain housing assets, positioning developments as viable for investors while maintaining affordability targets. Leadership style influences how redevelopment projects move from concept to execution. Micah Pilkey Utah has emphasized structured experimentation within defined financial guardrails. Creative concepts are evaluated through phased pilot testing before broader deployment. He has described maintaining a friction journal to identify inefficiencies and recurring operational challenges. This approach supports continuous improvement without expanding risk exposure unnecessarily. Decision-making balances three core factors: impact on residents, financial feasibility, long-term scalability. Projects that fail to meet all three criteria are revised or postponed. Team members are encouraged to bring forward alternative layouts or partnership models. However, each idea is measured against infrastructure cost, zoning alignment, and long-term maintenance planning. This process allows flexibility while preserving capital discipline. Real estate cycles require patience. Micah Pilkey Utah frames redevelopment as a long-horizon investment strategy rather than a short-cycle trade. Acquiring properties with existing infrastructure lowers entry cost. Structured upgrades improve asset value over time. Long-term growth planning includes standardized site management practices, predictable rental structures, and asset class replication across markets. By building a repeatable model, Pilkey aims to reduce volatility associated with one-off projects. His professional background highlights commitment to ethical entrepreneurship and community impact. That orientation aligns with broader trends in responsible development, where investors increasingly evaluate both financial return and measurable social impact. The redevelopment of small footprint communities also addresses demographic shifts. Younger households and workforce populations often seek lower-cost living options near employment hubs. Organized tiny home communities provide an alternative between apartment living and traditional single-family housing. Although Micah Pilkey Utah remains associated with his early professional roots, his present operations are concentrated in Texas markets. The geographic transition reflects strategic alignment with population growth corridors rather than departure from past experience. Utah provided foundational exposure to land development and capital structuring. Texas now offers scale, permitting flexibility, and demographic demand that support replication of the redevelopment model. This geographic reframing clarifies the trajectory of his career. Early experience established operational understanding. Current focus emphasizes scalability and long-term asset growth within expanding markets. By aligning development activity with regional demand, Pilkey maintains flexibility to adapt to shifting housing conditions. Community revitalization requires more than property acquisition. Infrastructure upgrades must align with resident needs. Utility improvements, drainage systems, and clear lot organization contribute to stability and safety. Micah Pilkey Utah approaches redevelopment as a layered process. Acquisition, assessment, infrastructure upgrade, unit placement, operational management. Each stage follows defined benchmarks to maintain accountability. The goal is to create environments that provide predictability for residents and investors alike. Structured management reduces turnover volatility and supports consistent occupancy rates. Housing experts continue to highlight the importance of expanding affordable options in fast-growing regions. Redevelopment of underused properties offers one avenue to address that gap without requiring entirely new land entitlements. Pilkey's strategy reflects recognition that long-term value in real estate depends on durable infrastructure and disciplined oversight. Sustainable development in this context refers to financial sustainability and operational resilience. Projects are designed to remain viable across economic cycles. Cost control, phased capital deployment, and measurable return benchmarks reduce exposure to downturn risk. Micah Pilkey Utah operates within this framework. By leveraging existing property footprints and introducing incremental improvements, redevelopment projects can stabilize revenue streams while contributing to housing supply. The tiny home community model does not replace traditional housing markets. Instead, it supplements them. Smaller units, lower entry costs, and structured communities offer an additional layer within the housing ecosystem. Real estate development often attracts attention for large-scale projects. Pilkey's approach centers on smaller-scale, repeatable communities that accumulate value over years rather than months. Micah Pilkey Utah frames growth as disciplined expansion built on replicable systems. Infrastructure quality, operational oversight, and financial prudence shape each redevelopment cycle. The transition from Utah to Texas illustrates a willingness to pursue opportunity while maintaining strategic continuity. Experience informs execution. Market demand informs geography. Long-term vision informs capital allocation. In an environment where housing affordability remains a national concern, redevelopment models that reuse existing land assets may play a meaningful role. Pilkey's portfolio reflects that orientation. Micah Pilkey Utah continues to refine a redevelopment strategy grounded in practicality and measured growth. By focusing on scalable tiny home communities and leveraging underutilized properties, he aligns financial objectives with housing accessibility. As Texas markets expand and demand for affordable housing persists, redevelopment models built on operational discipline may gain broader relevance. Pilkey's work illustrates how land development can evolve from traditional formats toward adaptable community structures designed for durability over time.